Welcome to the Midnight Writers Podcast, helping authors become better writers.
Episode 4, Does Any of This Matter If You Don't Plan on Publishing? I'm John.
I'm Lena.
And this is Ben.
So, does it matter?
Does it? I think a lot of this stuff can be applied if you're just writing for fun. So, I mean, that's how I spent, if you can call my writing a career, that's how I spent most of it, is just writing for fun and keeping all these things in mind that we've talked about in the past episodes and things we're going to talk about in the future episodes. It's definitely good to keep in mind just if you're writing for fun, because you still want to write something that's really fun to read, even if you don't plan on publishing it. Maybe it's for, let your friends and family read it. Maybe it's for your own personal pleasure. But just being able to look at something you've written and you really like it and you're really proud of it, that alone is worth it for me, I think.
Yeah, it's good to have something completed, to say, I've written this, even if you don't tell other people about it, or, I mean, if nothing else, at some point in the future, you might write a second story and be like, I kind of do like this. Let me just put it up on Amazon real quick, because with self-publishing, it's so easy to get
and tell us, John, how did that go for you?
Hey, I've sold a few copies.
There you go!
I've also done that too, but I think, a lot of it comes down to, for me, my steadfast rule for writing is, if I enjoy it, if I enjoy the story I've written, if it's only for me, then that's all that matters. Like, if I'm trying to write to meet an audience or to get published by any of the big 5 publishers, I'm going to be miserable. So a lot of it, it does matter as long as I'm writing for myself. Because I will pull out stories I've written years before. Like my first novel, I'll read through it, I'm like, this is really good. And I'm glad that I wrote it. And you can self-publish, and just having something completed, finishing something is really an accomplishment. And if you get a hold of a physical copy in your hands, that is a defining moment, definitely, for a writer.
Yeah. I don't remember. I think it was one of the conventions I went to, and I was listening to somebody, and he basically was saying, if you ever do get to where you're writing stories for any of the bigger publishers, and you're then on contracts, you're on deadlines, and writing becomes less fun as you've got a lot more to do. So right now, before you get to that point, just enjoy writing for writing, even if you're never planning on publishing.
And if anything, if you continue to write, you continue to get better at writing. Mm-hmm. And eventually you will find yourself with a story that you'll talk to people about it, and everyone will be really excited about it, and everyone will want to read it. But the only way you got there is because you continued to write. You hadn't published a single thing, but suddenly you find yourself with this, $1 million idea or whatever. And, you couldn't have gotten there if you hadn't continued to write, even if publishing isn't your main goal.
One thing I found interesting is there are so many people I work with that are writing books. Never considered it before, but you just bringing it up, especially talking about NaNoWriMo, and you find out, I'm doing that too, or I'm writing such and such. I mean, I found 2 people at work, or one new person at work this week, and there's one other person I know who I found out they're writing books, and even if you never publish, it gives you something fun to talk about with that person.
Yeah, or maybe they're like, oh, well, if he can do it, I can do it.
That's how I ended up here. How I ended up here, because I was just writing for fun my entire life, and most of the conventions we go to in the Denver, Colorado Springs area have a lot of writing panels. My dad started going, and then, John, you were going, and between both of you, my dad's actually getting into writing now, and you're pulling me into this publishing thing, and here I am on a podcast talking about writing. I mean, you don't see it coming, but it's just stuff that you learn, and you just hanging out with other people, it's fun. Mm-hmm. And it's something I hadn't considered. And now I'm actually thinking about publishing my sci-fi novel that I'm going to finish something.
You'll get there.
Yep.
But
you make them not Star Wars.
Yeah.
Shush.
just scar tours, and then just go and copy replace the entire thing. Anyways, I found too, so the novel I'll be writing for next year's NaNoWriMo is a memoir of my time on the 14,000 foot peaks in Colorado with my dad. And so for me, yeah, I'll probably publish it. I'll self-publish it like I have all my other books. But it's a written history at that point. And so sometimes, yeah, if it's, depends on what you're writing, but sometimes, yeah, you keep writing and you can write your own kind of family history. I mean, yeah, I'm 30 and I'm writing a memoir, but it's not just my memoir, it's a memoir of me and my dad. And so just kind of that historic capturing for my grandchildren or my great grandchildren to pick up and eventually read, that right there. If it's not published, if no one else reads it, I don't care, as long as it's within my family and they understand. Oh, hey, here's this guy, and here's who he was back then when he was 30 and his dad was 50 something. I mean, it's a look into the past a lot of times, especially when you're getting better as a writer and you're telling different stories. It's the stories you tell, I think, that really matter, whether or not you're gonna get it out to a public audience or not. They're your stories.
And with the print-on-demand services you have now, it you can create a book and order 10 copies, give them to your family, and leave them at that. You don't have to ever actually quote-unquote publish them to get them in a hardback or a paperback and give them to people. I was actually talking to someone I forgot about, a third person at work who wrote a book. He did it was a big bicycle journey that he worked for a couple of years, joined a club to get these people get into shape for some big bicycle challenge. I don't remember what it was. But then, and he took lots of pictures all along the way, and at the end of it, he said last year he put it together in a little book, mostly a photo book, and printed off 10 copies to give to people, and that's where he's leaving it. And he just felt good to have it on the shelf.
Right. Yeah, having a physical copy of something, of an accomplishment, be it writing a novel or, bicycling in Tour de France or whatever, or hiking the 14ers, just, having something physical that sits on your bookshelf that says, I did this, and people come over to your house or, come to your cubicle at work and see it laying on your desk, and they'll ask you about it because it's something that, maybe they've done, maybe they haven't, but a lot of times, they probably haven't, and they'd want to know about it.
Yeah, it's definitely a very personal thing sometimes, just writing. But I think it is important to learn the skills, too. I mean, anybody can write a book, but not everybody can write a book well. So
or
being
finish
able
a book.
Yeah. So that's why I think it's still important to learn how to write a book, how to structure stories, how to keep your audience's attention, how to write good descriptions and stuff. And it's not just, type a thing, print it, you got a book, yay! Because some of those can actually be pretty bad, and it's just nice to be able to put out the best thing you can possibly do. So that's why it's good if you still listen to our podcast.
Yeah. Well, and that's what John was saying, is that the ease of doing print-on-demand type self-publishing nowadays does mean, unfortunately, that there are a lot of people out there who will publish stuff that isn't the greatest, mainly because people will ask. I mean, you go and you talk to people as a writer, and they will ask, oh, are you published? Well, then that kind of forces you into the, well, no, I'm not. But then you find out, oh, yeah, well, I can. But then you start putting out, just to get published, you're putting out material that's not the greatest. Then you kind of flood the market with not the greatest material. And so, yeah, you definitely have to work at it. You got to get a first draft. A lot of people just take their first draft and say, oh, this is perfect. This is my magnum opus. I'm going to put this up on Amazon and make $1 million. And then they're disappointed when they don't get nothing. Except that's a double negative, so they wouldn't get anything.
And this is why you pay attention to grammar.
Precisely. But what it comes down to is, you could have a story that you have, and you start telling people about it. And if people are interested, there's always the option to then go and self-publish. You can. Again, none of us are actually professionally published, so it does kind of leave that gap of knowledge, but there's potential of, you send it out to a few agents who are looking for books, and then they'll get them up to the big publishers, and you could get published that way. But, if you find that, hey, you have more control over doing it through the self-publishing, and you find that it's a story that people would want to read, then that's always an option. Just because you don't think you're going to publish it first doesn't mean that that's always going to be the case, per se.
Yeah. And I believe that there are other areas of your life that you can take what you learn from finishing a book and apply it to. For one is just finishing a huge project.
Yeah.
Even if it's the only book you're ever going to write, you're going to move on to something else. It gives you the ability to work at something, polish it, and get it done. And that's a huge accomplishment that you can take into many other hobbies or other areas of your life.
Yeah, just learning to do getting into a habit of writing.
Yeah.
And one thing I really wanted to talk about when we came up with ideas for this episode was I have a master's in science, and a lot of the things that we've talked about and are going to talk about is stuff that I've used writing my thesis. It's not just fiction writing or stories. These are things that you can use in all kinds of stuff. Managing your time, motivating yourself to write. Oh boy, was that hard! Things like I had to write at the library. I couldn't write at home. And I found certain music I had to listen to. I could not listen to any other kind of music because it would be distracting or I'd fall asleep. And being at the library was a good balance for me because it was nice and quiet, but there were people around. So, if I'm playing solitaire on my computer, there's people walking behind me and there's a little part of me going, no, don't get caught. So a lot of this stuff can be applied to other things. It's not just fiction writing.
Well, and it's not even thesis writing, too. I know for me and my dad doing the 14ers, writing a novel is very much like climbing a mountain, which is also the parallel of eating an elephant. You just do it one bite at a time, one step at a time, one word at a time. And so it's those habits you form, those motivators, all the little things that really gets you to write really help. So when we're climbing a mountain, we don't say, oh, hey, that's, 7 miles away from the trailhead to the top of the mountain, and it's 4,000 vertical feet to get there. We don't look at it like that until we're done. We say, hey, that's how far we've come. But when we're standing at that trailhead, we're stepping out, we're going to go and we're going to hike. And we just say, okay, well, we got to get to this first trail turnoff. And then we go up this gully. And then we go over on this ridge. And then just little pieces. You just break it down. And it's the same in writing as it is in mountain climbing. So, I mean, there's a lot that can just parallel between different things in life, learning from writing.
It helps you to meet new people.
Right.
Especially going to conventions. If you go to conventions and stuff, and talking and seeing talking to other authors and stuff, it's just fun telling them what you're writing.
Yeah, and they're not so high in, most of the ones that we meet are from the general area, from Denver, Colorado, and they're traditionally published. But they're totally willing to talk about writing and everything. They're not snobby like, are you going to buy my book? Well, then leave.
Yeah.
You can talk to them.
They're not officially published, then you just need to know they're nice people to talk to.
They're good to network with, even if you really don't have anything to make you bring you to their level.
Yeah, and if the people do look down on you for not traditionally publishing or even publishing at all, it's like those people don't need to be your friends anyway.
Yeah, go to the other people.
It has to be all about you and what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and most good authors will understand that because a lot of the authors, especially at conventions, a lot of them are local authors.
Right.
And they're making a living at it barely, and some are traveling around to, from multiple states.
Mm-hmm.
So they know what it's like to just get started. And if you talk to most of them, a lot of them probably didn't start with the intention of, I'm going to write this so that I can be published. They just started, and they're not all Kevin J. Anderson, who pretty much grew up writing and knowing that he was going to publish all of his life. So
I guess we're not all destined for writing like that.
Yeah, but just find ways to make it fun. That's what the whole point of this is, really. I mean, that's why anybody who ever writes does it, or they should, is because it's fun and it's what you want to do. So find a way to make it fun. Yeah.
Even if it's only to you and your family. You have a story to tell.
Precisely. If it's not fun, don't do it. Ever.
Ever.
Yeah. That's why I haven't done my taxes for the 7 years.
Because it's not fun.
School. Dang, that doesn't work.
Yeah. Sorry, IRS, but actually, that was a lie. I have done my taxes. Sorry.
And on that note, any final comments?
Just keep it fun.
Yeah.
I think that's the best message I can think of.
Yeah. And you can always change your mind.
Yep.
Unless you're in a contract, in which case that's a little harder. So.
If you're not planning on publishing, don't get into a contract.
Precisely.
There you go.
All right. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks much.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Midnight Riders podcast. If you've enjoyed this content, sign up for our newsletter on our website, midnightriderssociety.com, where you'll get a lot more great information. See you next Wednesday.